afternoon and welcome back to City Rock, Cape Town, here in Cape Town, South Africa. My name is Alistair Fenton, with me is John O'Falla, and we will be commentating the lead. Thanks to our sponsors, Black Diamond, City of Cape Town, Western Cape Government. And this is the final component of the qualification round for the men. Here we have a brief look at the route and one of the officials. As you can see, slightly windy in the venue today. That'll definitely be helping out the competitors. They might not have to chalk up so much due to the winds of sending. Okay, so we get to have a little look at the route here, up through some big holds. I've heard from the route setters that there's a jump involved. We'll see. Some of the stronger competitors might not need to jump, but we'll see. We'll see how it looks going through up to the top, and I think that's where the jump might be. Yeah, you can see the rest of the wall at City Rock, Cape Town, and it's quite hard to tell from this angle, but the wall is quite overhanging, 35 degrees I think, and in a little while we'll have a side angle. That gives you a little bit of a better idea. You can tell from the quick draws how steep it is. Jono, welcome to the commentary box. How excited are you to see the guys do some leading?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really stoked to see how they do here. Their speed and boulder were looking really strong. We had some really fast guys on the speed, looking really smooth. A lot of them crushed the boulders. You can see the muscles rippling in their shoulders when they held those moves. It was super impressive. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do on that last dyno that you saw at the top of the route earlier. I was underneath the route a couple of minutes ago, and I don't think it's spannable, but you never know. These guys do some amazing things, so we'll see how they cope with that. I mean, bottom of the route's pretty juggy. I expect most people will get to third or fourth draw, and then it starts getting a bit harder, as you can see on your screen there. The hole's getting a bit smaller at off angles. Yeah, there you can see at the top that hole's quite big. If they get a hand or two on there, they'll pretty much guarantee to stick it, but it's going off those two really awkward volumes. Not sure how many of our viewers have ever tried to step and jump off a volume, but if you don't get the angle of your shoe quite right, it can be quite tricky, and especially taking into the mental consideration of lead. You're above a draw, you have to jump. Yeah, it's going to be a tricky jump. I think it's going to be an exciting lead round, and I think we can be guaranteed some good climbing today.
Thanks for that, Jono. For those of you that are just tuning in, this is the lead portion of the IFSC-Africa Continental Championship, and we are here in Cape Town, South Africa. So far, in first place, we have Christopher Kossa from Johannesburg. Came first in lead and first in the bouldering. He topped all 4 boulders. And how the scoring system works is your ranking in each of the 3 disciplines, lead, boulder, and speed, are multiplied together to give you a point value. The lower your point value is, the better. And because he came first so far, Christopher has 1 point. In second place with 6 points we have David Nordia. He came second in speed and third in the bouldering. That gives him 6 points. And after that is Colin Curtis. He has 4 points from speed, 2 points from bouldering, gives him 8 points. So Chris will have to really not perform very well here. If he gets anything better than 5th place, he's guaranteed to go into the finals in 1st place, which is a good place to be. And if there is a tie in the finals, the scoring rolls back to these qualifying rounds, so he'll be set up well for that if he does have a tie on Sunday. Today is the second day of this competition. Yesterday we had the ladies qualification round. 8 of them qualified, and we'll see them tomorrow in the finals. Erin Sturkenberg from KZN did really well yesterday, and I'm sure she's hoping to repeat that performance tomorrow. On to the lead climbing. First up, JD Miller from Eastern Cape, former student at Potchefstroom University where he started climbing, was quite involved in the climbing club there. Now living in the Eastern Cape, working at a climbing gym called Valley Crag. Very strong boulderer, did quite well in the bouldering, got 1 top 1 zone, and let's see how he does on the lead. Still just waiting for him to come on out. We'll be back with you in a second. Okay, so Jono, tell us a little bit about how the scoring works for the lead climbing.
Right, so for those of you who haven't watched an international IFSC competition before, or any other competition for that matter, the scoring for lead is pretty simple compared to boulders. Each judge has a score sheet in their hands where they have a picture of the route, and each hold is numbered. And your score is based off which hold you control. Now, controlling a hold means that you have your hand on it and you can move off it. If you move off a hold towards another hold but you don't stick that hold, or you don't manage to get your hand there and hold yourself there, then you're given a plus, which means you're in between the 2 holds and you moved off the previous one. So it's pretty easy for climbers to get separated based on scores. One climber lunges for a hold, another climber doesn't. They're separated already. So it's not as complex as the zones and tops of boulder, but it's an effective system, and I'm sure we're going to see some tops. Hopefully we're going to see some spectacular falls as well. But you know, we have good belayers, and we're going to have a good show here, folks.
Okay, JD Miller, Eastern Cape, having a brief moment when the athletes come out. They're allowed 45 seconds to just have another view of the route and just refresh their memory. You can see him working through the route in his mind, his hands doing that almost unconsciously, getting a little bit of chalk, and he is looking for confirmation that he can begin climbing. And his time will start now that his foot has left the ground. And he clips the first draw. Kent, who was with me earlier in the commentary box, is on belaying duty. An experienced climber and the head route setter from City Rock, Johannesburg. Can see JD moving up to the second quick draw.
You can see his boulder power really coming through. You can see his boulder power really coming through here as he moves in between holds. The way he swings his arm and latches onto a hold is really indicative of the raw power he has. Now the question is, can he maintain that power for the full route?
So lead climbing is an endurance focused event where climbers have to really not get too tired lower down on the route so that they still have enough energy to climb hard higher up on the route. And you can see he's just wondering how he's going to get to that hold. Often in bouldering a climber would just jump, but that isn't sometimes an option on the lead wall due to the risky nature of a jump. In bouldering, if you fall off, you have a few more attempts, but on lead, if you fall off, your attempt is over, and the highest hold that you got to is the score that you'll get. You can see he's hanging on just with fingertips there to make this next clip. The next hold isn't very good at all. JD just falling off there as he tries to bump the left hand a little bit higher. Can see the officials just marking the time. So in the event of a tie, if two climbers get to the same hold, the time that it took them to get there will be the determining factor between who ranks higher on the score. Next climber coming up is Christopher Cossa, currently in first place. Came first in the lead. Sorry, this is the lead. He's hoping to come first in the lead. Came first in the speed and first in the boulder.
Yeah, Chris has been one of the strongest guys here in SA for quite a few years now. He spent last year going to the international cups. He's trained in Innsbruck a couple of months. As I understand, he wants to go back there. And yeah, all around really strong climber. Earlier this morning he broke his own South Africa speed record once again, coming in at 6.87 seconds. And you can see here, comparatively to our first climber JD, Chris's power and endurance are quite similar to one another. His endurance isn't a limiting factor, and he's more free to use more power, so he can climb more comfortably. Going to that hold there, he didn't have as much trouble as JD at all. Didn't have to pop that heel hook and really grimace to get there. Made it look effortless.
Chris, in terms of sport climbing ability, has climbed an 8C plus, and he's been really hoping to break that 9A barrier. Not many South Africans have done that. You can see I'm quite comfortable making that clip. Chris is really hoping to top this route, I'm sure, but he'll be happy with coming first if he doesn't get to the top.
Yeah, as we said earlier, it really doesn't matter where Chris comes with the lead. He could come 14th and he's still guaranteed a place in tomorrow's final, and if he comes 5th, he's still guaranteed first place. But as a climber, it's a matter of he wants to do the route. It's him versus the route, and also a bit of he wants to show the other guys who's boss here. He wants them to know that he's the top dog and he wants to win.
There's a little bit of possibility of some of the other guys taking it, but Chris is definitely one of the strongest competitors in the field. You can see he's quite close to the top now, taking a moment to have a little rest. He's really deliberate with the way he places and uses his feet. Even though his upper body is incredibly strong and powerful, feet are important, just helping to take a little bit of weight off the hands. save some energy for down the line. And this is the final quick draw that he'll be clipping before he goes and tries that big move into the top.
Yeah, there you got a good look at the angle of the wall. It's always difficult going over to a new angle, and here he goes for the dyno, and he sticks it with one hand. Chris Cossa topping off our first top of the lead route for the day. Little fist pump there for celebration. I'm sure he's really happy about that.
Chris being a little risky, but he can afford to be in the event of another climber getting to the top. The timer only stops when he's clipped the rope through the top anchor, not when he gets to the top hold. But he has a little bit of space in which to show off some excitement at getting to the top, having a little chat with the belayer. Struggling with the knot just a little bit. You can see the officials in the background just confirming the time and the points on the score sheets.
Yeah, some of the girls yesterday, if you saw the live stream, had a lot more trouble than Chris there getting the knots off. When you take a big fall or you really come hard off that rope, that knot can get really tight. And I mean, especially for a competition like this, the officials make sure the knot's nice and safely tied, but it can be a bit frustrating coming off, especially after a celebration like that.
Up next on the wall we have Matthew Groenewald. Sure you saw that little graphic there. And now that Chris is untied and leaving the wall, we'll see Matthew coming out. Matthew Groenewald from the Eastern Cape, 17 years old, one of the younger competitors that we have here. 8B plus on lead, and he did that quite recently, a route that was bolted in the Eastern Cape. He got the first ascent, and I'm sure that'll be giving him a little bit of confidence going into the lead portion of this event.
Yeah, I've competed with Matthew here in the past, and his personality really shows through in his climbing. He's really meticulous in how he places his hands and feet, and he trusts that he has the power to hold. And he's one of those guys that really tries hard, even when he's right at his limit. And I think, yeah, it's going to show through, especially with lead being his stronger discipline. I think it's really going to show through all the hard work he's done over the years, and his really eagerness to make it through the finals to show us what he's got here.
You can see just flagging his left foot out there, placing it against the blank wall just to help stabilize his body and push it in the direction that he needs to go. Just deciding how he's going to do this next sequence, using his height a little bit to get into that undercling with the left hand. He's got to be careful with his foot there close to the bolt. Some of our comp climbing viewers will know Adam Ondra had some trouble with that a little while ago, but he seems to have just been far enough away for it not to be an issue.
He had a really tactical heel there, if you noticed. It might not look like much, but even just taking a smidgen off your hands can make the difference in between topping the route and not. And if you look here, the way he's using his feet on the volume, he's getting as much surface area of that rubber onto the volume. And here he's got that nice high foot like Chris did. But as you can see, he climbs differently, and he stuck that move that JD fell off. Starting to look a little pumped here. It looks like he's successfully moving off that crimp. It's deceptive, that hold. It's a lot shallower than it looks. He's making a big move, and he's got the undercling there. His legs are starting to, as we call it, Michael Jackson a bit. But he's still looking confident, determined.
And you can tell just by the way his feet were sort of cutting loose and getting back onto the wall how steep the wall is. You can see his chalk bag swinging behind him as gravity pulls it away from his body due to the angle. Does really well not to lose control with the cut there. Cutting is just where your feet come off of the wall, and he just doesn't have enough power left in the fingers to hang on while he gets his feet back onto the wall.
Yeah, I think he got to that hand and let his feet go and realized that he's made a bit of a mistake in the beta and didn't quite know how to rectify it. Maybe thought that he could campus through it and just couldn't see a solution out. Unfortunately, that does happen if you make a bit of a mistake in the route reading. As far as I remember, Chris put a foot up there and went through it, didn't use his hands there. I may be mistaken, but sometimes you get into a situation, although you may have some left in your arms, just can't get out of it.
Now you can see Matthew heading back. And once the climbers have finished climbing this lead route, they are allowed to sit and watch because there's no more information will be helping. They're done climbing for the day. It's been quite a day. Bouldering this afternoon, speed climbing this morning. I'm sure these guys are quite tired and looking forward to a well-earned rest tomorrow before those that make it into the finals.
As you can see, our next climber is Katlego Pope, or as we like to call him KP. One of the more charismatic guys here in the field today. Route setter at City Rock, Johannesburg. Infamous for his flexibility and his lovely movement up on routes, and I'm sure we're going to see a good climb from him today.
Yeah, lead climbing is one of KP's specialties, and you can see he's got quite a lot of chalk on his hands. That chalk is liquid chalk that climbers apply before they start climbing, and once it dries it leaves a layer of chalk that they then apply normal chalk over, and that just helps the climber not need to chalk up so often.
One thing we should see here with KP is efficiency. Every time he climbs, he moves with as much efficiency as possible, and that's ideal with going into lead. The more efficiency you have, the longer you can go, and the longer you can go, the more chance you have to get to the top. You can see there that wonderful drop knee on that big green hold there. Other climbers haven't done that so far, and I mean that could save him just that little bit he needs.
KP just taking a moment to check out the next sequence that he's going into. He will have had a look at it during the viewing earlier and before he left the ground, but it's not a bad idea to take a moment and just confirm.
You can see there as he was going to clip, he used 2 fingers almost fully extended, and that's a strategy often used in climbing, to grip as little as possible just to stay on while resting, to save the forearms. And that will certainly help here, where he's using quite a bit of lock-off strength to get that clip on quite a bad hold.
That's quite a tactical decision to clip from higher. I mean, to clip higher above your body, but perhaps he should have clipped now that he's on the better hold. Would have been slightly more efficient, but it's a bit of a gamble. KP just shuffling his hand around, trying to find the optimum position before going for the next hold. Almost manages to hold it, and just pops off.
Well, at least if you're going to fall, you can fall spectacularly, and I think that was quite a spectacular fall. KP giving us a good show as usual. He didn't get as high as Chris, but lovely climber to watch.
Yeah, KP's a really smooth climber to watch on the wall, and he's been involved in the SA climbing scene for quite a while. Been overseas to compete, represented his country and his province, and yeah, maybe we'll see him in the finals. KP so far came 11th in speed and 11th in bouldering, and we'll see how the other climbers do. That'll give him his lead result, and we'll see where he sits in the rankings. Up next we have Tony Flynn, 8B on lead, quite a strong lead climber, 8A on boulder, been spending some time in Rocklands lately. We'll see if all that bouldering has affected his endurance. You can see him just miming through the moves before he hops on the wall. Climbers have the option to not use the full 45 seconds. 45 is the most time that they're allowed. If they use a little less than that, that's not a problem.
Tony is one of our taller athletes on the field here today. Often that can, if you're too tall, it can be quite a disadvantage, especially on those really tight boulders. But I think here on this lead, it's quite an advantage to be taller. You might not have to pop those high feet that some of the shorter climbers have to pop, and it might mean he has to use less power, especially for that dyno at the top. It would be significantly easier being taller, but we'll see if he gets there.
Tony with quite a confident jump into that next hold. His height just means it's not such a committing move for him, but he is quite a confident climber, and you can tell that by his body language on the wall. Similar to Sean McCall in a way. A little bit slower, but confident, moving with purpose. He knows where he's going, and he is hoping to get there quite quickly.
Yeah, as you can see, he, like Alistair said, much like Sean McCall, climbs quite aggressively. He knows he has the power to grab those holds, so he goes for them. And he knows that because he's a bit of a bigger climber and he's got quite a bit of power, the quicker he does this, the better. And a spectacular dyno there from Tony. You can see his power coming through from Rocklands there. Looked quite comfortable to him, but might never know the shock that comes to the system there, raising the heart pressure and the heart rate quite a bit. Hopefully he can calm down and compose himself for this final dyno. A bit of a foot slip there, and he pops off. Tony coming second highest today. We'll see who else gets to that point or higher and tops it like Chris earlier. But all in all, it's really good lead performance there. You can see here he's a bit pumped. Kent untying, the belayer untying his rope there. Often a belayer will untie his climber's rope, especially when you've given their all.
Yeah, often the climbers coming down off the wall have given everything that they have in their arms, and to ask them to untie a tight knot that's just held the fall is not unreasonable, but maybe uncompassionate. Up next we have Renee Lombard, currently residing in the Western Cape in Cape Town. Grew up in Gauteng, started climbing at City Rock Johannesburg, spends a lot of time here at City Rock Cape Town, and not necessarily a lead climber, but he knows that if he does well here, it'll definitely stand him in good stead for the rankings. He's really hoping to get into the finals, and currently he is in 11th place, came 12th in the speed and 10th in the boulders.
And just a reminder to our viewers, to get into the finals you have to be in the top 8. So if Renee wants a chance here, he's going to have to pull off probably a top 3 or 2. I haven't done the math, but he needs to do quite well in the lead here if he has a chance to get through to the finals. He's just miming through like the other climbers, and he looks confident going up onto the first volume of the route.
Can see there the belayer Siobhan Patience, head route setter here at City Rock Cape Town. And it's nice for the climbers to know that the belayer is a climber themselves. Gives a little bit of confidence that they can really push it and not worry about being in any danger. Of course, competition climbing is quite safe. Most common injuries being sports-related injuries, joints, tweaky shoulder, tweaky elbow, some finger injuries. Finger injuries being very common in climbers. So fingers are one of the most important things keeping you on the wall. Just taking a moment to change his beta. Beta being sort of the way you do a sequence or information about a route. Just using the volume top, get his body high enough to get that hold really well. Using his feet to control his momentum, that he doesn't swing off that hold. Get a little better idea of the angle there of the wall. Just taking a moment to change his sequence. See if he'll clip from this hold. Yeah. That hold not being very good.
Yeah, Rene's looking a bit unsure in his beta here, and he pops off right there. Maybe he could have gotten a bit further if he hadn't hesitated so many times earlier down, but that's the game of climbing. If you mess up the beta, you make it significantly harder for yourself, but Rene is still looking quite cheerful there at the bottom, talking to his belayer, and I'm sure either way he's enjoyed his experience here, giving his all to try and qualify for the Olympics next year in Tokyo 2021.
Yeah, just taking a moment, wondering if he could have done something differently. Chatting to Siobhan involved in the route setting team as well.
It's quite typical of climbers, isn't it? We get down off a route and immediately want to get back on it. Almost get frustrated with ourselves that I could have done that better, man. But as it is in comp climbing, you get one shot and one shot only. You come off and that's that for the day. Up next you can see we have Josh Bruns here, 17 years old, slightly on the shorter side, 176 centimeters. Much more of a lead climber than a boulderer. Got a good fast speed time as well. Did quite well in bouldering. Alistair will tell you that now, but let's see what he can do on the lead wall.
Josh is currently in 8th place before he hops on the wall. Came 9th in speed and 9th in bouldering. Speed time today 10.18, not quite his personal best, but often the intensity of a competition, especially one as important as this, makes it quite hard to perform at your best. Josh has decided he's getting on the wall and off he goes. See, he's just got the rope over his leg there and Kent's just trying to untangle it, and Josh does well just to sort it out. Experienced climbers often don't even have to think about where the rope is and what it's doing. Comes with hours and hours of climbing on walls and climbing in the gym. Josh clipping quite confidently there. Looks like he has a good plan and that he's decided what he's doing and he's sticking to it. You can tell quite often through a climber's body language how confident they are on the wall. Josh seems to be having a good time so far.
I think that's one of the main things, especially with these competitions. The athletes are here to compete and do their best, but they're also here to have fun and enjoy the climbing. At the end of the day, they're climbers. They want to send the route and they want to look cool doing it. And we saw that earlier with Chris celebrating before he had clipped the chains. But I don't think that's uncommon in the world of climbing. But back to Josh here. He's looking really strong on the route. His lead prowess definitely showing through. Still moving confidently, doesn't look all that pumped. We'll see how he handles this move. We've had two climbers fall off here, and Josh comes off in the same place. Looks like a tricky move, quite far from the previous hold, but as we've seen, not undoable. Maybe just a product of nerves. It's a big competition for these guys. They're bound to be nervous. Josh doesn't look all that pleased with his performance. He's put his hands on his hips, looking up at the wall, wondering if he's done himself a good service or if he should have done something differently. But I think he can go home proud of himself today.
Yeah, Josh did quite well there, but he probably, like all competitors, feels like he could have done a little bit better. Let's see how that score puts him in the rankings. For those of you who don't know, the IFSC has an app where you can get live updates of the scores. And that app is the WC Series, World Cup Series. If you download that app from the IFSC.
Up next here, you can see we have Christopher Wallace. He's 18, slightly taller than Josh at 177 centimeters, and today is in fact his birthday. So hopefully he can give himself a good birthday present and top the route. His lead and boulder aren't as high as some of the other guys, but the thing with comp climbing is it's not about how hard you can climb on. It's not about how hard you can climb on rock. It's about how you do on the day, how your head handles it, and how hard you try. Chris looking happy and confident, just checking there with the judges that he can climb. Our first climber wearing a helmet. Of course, it's up to them whether they want to. Some would prefer for safety. Fumbling with the first clip a bit. And gets a second clip more confidently. Looks like he's rearranged his headspace a bit.
Yeah, climbing with the helmet is up to the climbers. Chris from KZN, where they have a policy for climbers who are under 18, they need to wear a helmet just to protect against head injuries. Not very common in climbing, but possible. And I found as a climber, when I'm climbing, I like having a helmet. It gives me a little bit more confidence knowing that I can try some of the riskier moves and not worry about the rope flipping me upside down if I get distracted and don't manage it really well. Chris locking off hard with the left arm to make this next clip. Just shifting his way to a little bit more comfortable position. Possibly should have clipped from where he is now. Gets the heel to take some weight off the hand and moves quite easily up into that next hold.
That's one thing we haven't seen so much from the athletes today, is a lot of resting. Often you'll see on the World Cup circuit, some athletes will rest in a position for a minute and a half, sometimes 2 minutes. But I think as a factor of nerves, often you can forget your normal deep breaths and resting that you've practiced so many times on the lead wall and outdoors, and you just want to climb, try and get to the top as quickly as possible. Of course, there is also the factor of countbacks, and if you score the same as another climber, the climber who got there faster will pull ahead of you. So there is that. However, a rest may let you get higher. And Chris with a big jump there onto a very small crimp that JD fell off, looking confident up on this lead wall. A little bit of a dry fire there, and he's pulled it back. Christopher Wallace climbing quite well, looking a bit nervous here. If he can just get that clip, he'll probably sort out his headspace, and he's got the clip. Now he just needs to shake out, have a deep breath, recompose himself for the rest of the route.
And he just took a moment there to chalk up, just help dry his fingers a little bit. Now he's just suffering from a little bit of indecision. Just trying to shuffle his hands around a little bit, and sometimes just moving quickly, even though you're not in the optimum position, is important. And he'll be a little disappointed in that, but he did really well to get as high as he did on this route.
I think we're seeing a bit of a commonality here in where the majority of climbers are coming off the route. Just before that big dynamic move out to the side there, it seems like that's a big crux in the route, We'll see how the rest of the climbers do, but often route setters like to set a point to separate the climbers. Of course, it's important that the climbers are separated. If the route was too easy and everyone was tired, it wouldn't be much of a competition, and if it was too hard, it wouldn't be good for you, the viewers at home, to watch. Route setting is quite a difficult thing to do. But up next we have David Nordia here, from the Western Cape, climbs in Cape Town. Spent a lot of time in Rocklands. He's got a strong boulder grade there, and again, he's one of our taller guys. Hopefully all his bouldering in Rocklands hasn't been a hindrance on his endurance, but I know David's really keen to go to the Olympics, to continue his life as a professional climber. So let's see what he can pull out for us on the lead today.
David recreationally really enjoys bouldering, but is a strong competitor and trains lead and speed as well. You can see he's quite calm and collected here. Takes a moment to chalk before he goes a bit higher, sorts out the rope. Stepping his feet through really nicely. Just sagging down onto his feet, trying to relax his arms a bit as he chalks up. David went to the Youth Olympics in 2018 in Buenos Aires, the first Olympic event where climbers won medals, and he represented South Africa there along with Angela Eckhart. She is not competing in this event. David moving quite nicely up the wall, quite easily into that undercling, makes the clip comfortably there, nice and quick.
In fact, David also, I'm sure most of our viewers watch Epic TV Climbing Daily. He featured on one of their episodes earlier this year. You might recognize him from that. Across in Europe, of course, before the global pandemic and COVID-19. It's David here, clipping from off the left hand with his right, looking a bit strained on that arm, and choosing to bump there. As you can see, his arms are bending and his feet cut loose. Choosing to go back down, chalk, recompose himself, and a big move up onto that crimp. Now here he's coming up onto the section where 3 of our climbers have already fallen, so we'll see what David does here. Debating whether he should use a toe to maybe take some pressure off his hands. Maybe he's feeling a bit pumped. Gets the clip nice and comfortably, and it looks like he'll just take a bit of a rest here before going, and he does the dyno quite comfortably. That's his boulder strength coming through here, and doing what we call a bicycle, squeezing a hold in between his 2 feet, toe hooking with one foot and pressing with the other. Good way to take pressure off the hands and get a nice rest.
Can see David here shaking out his hands, just trying to get as much blood back into his forearms as possible. Squeezing the holds consistently while you're climbing really prevents fresh blood and fresh oxygen flowing into those muscles. David just falling off that crimp there. Can see he's not very happy about that performance. He's really hoping to get a bit higher. That little foot slip lower down really making him a little pumped and really sapping a bit of his energy. Can see he's not too chuffed with his performance, but he knows he did the best that he could, and he's psyched to have not fallen off when his foot slipped lower down.
I mean, the matter of fact for the day here is whether they go through to the finals. The finals are what really counts, and of course they all want to do as well as they can today, but there's also the fact of saving energy for Sunday, the finals. But of course they need to get in, and David may be feeling a little bit frustrated, but it looks like he's done enough. But we'll see as further climbers come out. Here we have Simon from Uganda, our only Ugandan climber and only non-South African climber here today. Got one of his first speed climbs in earlier this morning, and had a good experiment on the boulders. We'll see what he can do here coming into the lead. They don't have an indoor lead wall to train on. They have climbed outside. we've been told. So we'll see here. Maybe he'll upstart Chris and change the whole comp. That's the thing about comp climbing, we never know.
Yeah, Simon Ofuyuru from Uganda. In some ways really paving the way for competition climbing in his country, you know. It's obviously quite an experienced climber at home. Did the best in his country to be able to make it here, because he's not very comfortable with the clips. But I think after his experience here, he's going to take a lot of knowledge back home, and that'll really give the competition scene at home a little bit of the boost that it needs. And he's quite a strong climber, managing to hold that. Just wondering how he's going to clip this next hold. For those of you who don't climb, if you're not used to it, lead climbing is really intimidating, you know. Very different to bouldering. Quite a technical sport in that you need to know how to clip the quick draws, and being able to clip them quickly and efficiently saves a lot of energy. Moves on to a crimp on the volume. I think that crimp is intended as a foot for later. But one of the things about being on the wall is that you can choose. You can choose which holds to hold if you like. So I'm just wondering what to do with his feet here. Simon eyeing up that next hold. Struggling to get a heel in that jug. Deciding maybe let's not risk it too much. Coming down onto the ground. Into the safe hands of Siobhan.
You can see here he's obviously not a weak climber in any regard. He's got quite a bit of power, and what this comes down to is experience. And as Alistair said earlier, hopefully this experience, climbing at quite a big competition, will allow him to take that back to his country and really foster a climbing community, which will be great for him, his coaches, and the whole climbing community in Uganda in general.
Yeah, here in South Africa we've had quite a strong history of recreational climbing, and that just that experience carries through into the competition scene. Even though our competition scene is not very old, the SANCF, South African National Climbing Federation, only starting in 2010. Up next, Ethan Pearman, 17 years old. Having a quick look at the routes. He's going through his beta in his mind. It's confirming what he decided during the observation period.
Ethan is a native of Johannesburg, up in Gauteng. Climbs at City Rock, Johannesburg. I have in fact trained quite a bit with him, and Alistair was his coach for a period. Ethan is a tall climber, quite conservative when it comes to his energy on lead, lead being his third favorite discipline after boulder and speed. However, he's got a good body type for it, and he's looking quite confident here going up to the third clip, chalking nicely, using his feet as much as possible to save those arms up for later in the climb. And we've seen quite a few climbers come off on the more dynamic moves, so it's quite possible that using the feet as efficiently as he does here could be his saving grace up higher, and let him hold those big dynamic swings. Using the same drop knee here that KP did earlier, the climbers can talk to each other about the route, especially in observation. They often go through the route together. Ethan a bit indecisive here with his feet. There he puts up the heel hook that we've seen quite a few climbers use before him, and clips quite comfortably there.
Ethan thinking maybe that his height would allow him to reach that hold without having to do the heel, but once he's on the wall he says, maybe I gotta just put that heel in to get there in a more secure manner. Can see how high he is on the wall now, and just falling off there. Little wave to the crowd. This is one of Ethan's first really big competitions. Has been overseas to compete, I think. Been overseas to a Youth World Cup in Moscow. And yeah, still young in his comp climbing career. Lots of time to grow for this young man.
It looks like Ethan forgot to take his mask off for that climb. Of course, the competitors are wearing masks at all times except when they're climbing, but they can take them off to climb. And you can't help but wonder if that made an impact. Breathing is an important part in lead. The more oxygen you get into your forearms, the longer they last. So it's entirely possible that he could have gotten higher if he wasn't wearing a mask.
Up next we have Oliver Marks. And for those of you who are on the app and checking out the scores, see we have a few climbers falling off on hole 23, which is a little higher on the wall. Ollie's hoping to make it past that. Having a quick look, wondering, is that what I thought it was during the observation? Remember, the climbers only have 45 seconds. If they take longer than that, they will be out of time, not allowed to start. The judges will tell them they have to get on the wall, and if they take too long, sorry for them. You can see Ollie moving nicely on the wall, yeah, really using his feet quite well.
Ollie's quite a confident climber, as you would have seen earlier with his bouldering, and that's really showing through here with his lead. He's really moving decisively from one hole to another, and that precise, efficient, confident movement is quite a common strategy when it comes to lead climbing competitions. Earlier we've mentioned Sean McCall, but for those of you who have seen Tomoa Narasaki climb, Oliver isn't as dynamic, but certainly as confident when he moves in between holds. And I think that comes from a climber's background, what they started in, whether it be boulder or lead. Here Ollie using a heel, taking a bit of pressure off his hands to once again go into another heel. For those of you that don't know, a heel is where you use the back part of your shoe to engage the back of your legs to get a bit of more leverage to pull you onto the wall, and that takes a bit of strain off your arms to save some power that you can use later on in the route. There you can see he's getting into the steepest part of the wall right before where a few of our competitors have fallen, and he catches it with one arm there, looking very strong in the shoulders, bringing the right hand across, and that is hole 23, the hole that many have fallen off before him. He seems to be holding it quite confidently. If he can make it past where David did earlier, he'll be quite high in the rankings and guaranteed a spot, or almost guaranteed a spot, in the finals on Sunday.
Thanks, Jono. Yep, today is Friday for those of you that have forgotten. And Ollie just deciding to go for it and taking a little bit of a winger there. Obviously upset that he didn't catch it, but he did quite well there. The climbers obviously don't know how the climbers before them have done because they haven't been able to watch. Ollie currently in 4th place after his performance in speed, 3rd, and his performance in bouldering where he came 4th. Got all 4 zones and 3 tops, and this result in the lead should be enough to take him into the finals.
Up next is James Barnes. He's from the Western Cape, coach of quite a few of the female competitors we've seen earlier, again on the taller side of climbers, and one of the older climbers, and that experience can be a great crossing over across into the comp climbing. Of course, he's had the time to climb a lot more than our younger competitors, and that experience in knowing how his body handles different situations can be quite advantageous.
Yeah, James has been overseas as a coach as well, and he works at Southern Rock, a climbing gym in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, where he currently stays, registered as an athlete in Western Cape, which is why I think the infographic said that, but he's lived all over the country. He has, I've just been told, moved back to the Western Cape. James decides to clip those 2 draws first in a row, something I like to call a double tap, where you clip 2 quick draws from the same hold, save energy of moving and resettling yourself into a clipping position. And quite often in gym climbing, where the quick draws are closer together than you'd find outside, it's possible to do that. Here at City Rock, the quick draws. Oh, James with a sneaky stacked knee bar there, doing it maybe just to show that he could. He's good friends with the root setters, maybe thinking, I'll show you guys something. James has been developing quite a few outdoor routes in the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa, bolting and developing. Can see that experience really coming through while he's climbing here, moving really confidently on the wall here, going into that pocket and smoothly, really nicely up into that next hold. Not faffing around with the clips. For those international viewers, faffing means messing around.
It's one of the unique things about South Africa. There he gets that hold 23 that quite a few climbers have popped off, as we previously mentioned. Opts for the lower foot. Maybe his experience there telling him that, oh, and he pops off, so made a bit of a mistake there, opting to use a lower foot at an angle, choosing to use his height, but just wasn't enough to hang on there. Of course, he will be ahead of the multiple climbers who have fallen off that hold, as he moved off it and controlled the hold after, trying to move to the hold after that. So he will move up in the rankings.
For those of you at home that aren't aware of the scores at the moment, after the lead so far, some climbers still have to climb, so this isn't very official, Colin Curtis being one of them. We have Christopher Cossa first, puts him at the top of the scoreboard. David Nordier in second, Tony Flynn in third, Matthew Groenewold in fourth on the lead. Colin currently ranked second after his performance in speed and boulder, and he is a very strong sport climber. Climbed 8C plus 35 in South African grades. For those of you in the country, thanks for tuning in. Colin really hoping to use his height to his advantage here.
For those of you that didn't know, if this event, Africa Cup, hadn't taken place, Colin, being the only one with an IFSC international ranking, would have automatically gone through to the Olympics next year. So I'm sure he'll be hoping here to confirm that and win above everyone else to go through as he would have done previously. I'm sure he's happy to have the opportunity to compete for the position. They're popping the heel that we've seen quite a few times before. And Colin here looking really confident, looking higher up to confirm his next few moves, confirming his beta. And moving with confidence there. Opting to cut loose for a second just shows you the amount of power he has in the shoulders and back.
And in those forearms to hold on to those holds. Let's see what he decides to do here. Using the heel to take a bit of weight off that left hand so you can bump it up. taking a moment to chalk on that hold. We know from other climbers falling off that hold that it's not the best hold, but Colrin with his good finger strength is able to chalk up on that. See, he's hanging there just on 2 fingers, getting a little chalk. He's moving quite delicately and in control here, setting himself up for the big move, which he just manages to stick on, using a hand to control his momentum against the wall there. That was quite a risky move for Colrin. A little further and he would have popped off with the left hand and been unable to stay on. I'm sure after that he's really hoping to get to the top.
For those of you that don't know, Cape Town is a coastal city, and due to that it's quite humid, so that chalk's really important there to prevent the sweat from becoming a factor when trying to hold on those small crimps. Colrin here looking to maybe top the route like Chris, looking pumped but also confident, moving those feet across to get a better position. And here Colrin will go for the dyno, and he pops off, probably quite pumped from the earlier route. And I do believe that's the second highest we've seen on today's lead climb.
Yeah, Colin is only the second person to clip that long orange quick draw, and except for Chris who topped, he's the highest on the wall. Quick glimpse of Mull there, who joined me in the commentary box yesterday. Mull is from Waterval-Boerewyn, home of South African sport climbing in a way, some of the best sport climbing in the country. Mull has competed overseas, has a bit of a French heritage. His mom is from France, been home to France, climbed in Fontainebleau, climbed all around. There's David Nordia, quick glimpse in front of the camera. And Milena, one of the girls who could have been competing, but just due to a bunch of factors decided not to. She is, one of the stronger females we have climbing in South Africa. There's a little alien there in front of... Oh. And we're back.
Okay, I'm back online.
Colrin was our last competitor out for the day, our last athlete to compete in the lead, and shortly from now the judges will confirm the results of the lead, and the top 8 who will go through to the finals on Sunday will be confirmed.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned to the website and we will let you know who made it through to the finals. Other than that, we'll see you tomorrow for the ladies.